Charitra itself, this was one of the important areas, because this particular session, when we conceived it, we said, where will we have spaces to be able to listen to people who've actually attempted what we are trying to do? Yeah, and how do we do it? Huh? And so out of that arose what we call the cafe format, okay? But the session is structured so that each one of them takes about 5 to 7 minutes to talk about their experiences. And we've asked them to leave the 3 big challenges that they believe the sector has in the future. Okay? And if you look at the theme for the entire week, we've been going back and forth on what's that landscape of challenges. Within that, what are the implications for my organization? How is this entire environment going to pan out? I think those are the kinds of ideas that we've really been. And within that, of course, situated is the fact that each one of you as leaders, when you go back, what does it really mean in terms of how you will engage both within your organizations and on the issues that your sector is confronted with. So after that, what we will do is, after that session with a few Q&A, then we get into small groups of 5 each, and we will have one of them spending maybe 15 minutes, depending on how it goes, with you, okay? So there you get an opportunity to interact, raise questions based on your experience with them and the things that you pick up as they speak about their journey. Then 15 minutes later, we will just swap and ask them to move tables, so you get an opportunity with one more person. Okay? Is that fine? And depending on the time, we will kind of take a stock, and it probably looks like there'll probably be 2 rounds. Are we good to go? Great. I'll now hand over to Shilpa.
Thanks, Vasanthi. Just a quick round of introduction of our the panel here. This is like a little bit of a quiz. Okay, so how many of us know Akshara Foundation? Yes. So while all their long briefs or resumes are there in your file, so you can read them at leisure. They've all have had illustrious careers and great success attributed to them. But Ashok Kamath is chairman of Akshara Foundation. How many of us have heard of Akshay Patra? All of us not known. Sridhar Venkat is the man behind Akshay Patra. 108 ambulance. Yes, yes, yes. Dr. Varanasi is the gentleman behind that whole initiative, so it'll be really interesting. And Agastya International Foundation. Yes, okay. So Mr. Tyagarajan from Agastya. So we have an education context, we have Akshay Patra, which is again food and children, and we have health, if that's the spread. So I'll hand back to Vasanthi and Vandana to sort of take it forward. Looking forward to this afternoon with you.
I have to talk on this? Okay. Thank you so much for being here with us. What we'd love to start off by is just having each of you come up here and tell us your story. Take 5 to 10 minutes, just tell us a little bit about your own journeys as leaders, and then how the social organization that you led, founded, all of that came into your life, and a little bit about the organization and the impact that it creates. And would be good to hear your closing thoughts on, like Vasanthi said, if you looked at the landscape for the social sector, for all of us, what are those 3 big challenges that you see? Yeah. Any one of you first. Yeah.
Is this good to go?
Oh yes, that's good.
Yeah, okay. Great to be here. Personal journey, I went to usual IIT, IIM kind of stuff, and then 33 years of corporate life, used to run a couple of companies as managing director and CEO, public limited companies all over the world. Before coming on board Agastya 9 years ago, and the happiest 9 years of my life, easily, by far. Agastya was founded at the turn of the century. Initially started as a campus-based special school kind of thought. Never really happened, and the children are happy for it. The resulting School of Schools format has worked extremely well. we have a lovely campus, about 170 acres, 2.5 hours, depending on where you start in Bangalore from here. And we operate in 18 states. Our major focus is work with mostly rural, semi-urban, government school children or underserved population of children and teachers to enhance learning, to focus on being curious, creative, confident and caring, all 4 C's. We are often mistaken for a science teaching organization. We are not. We use STEM or science, technology, engineering, mathematics kind of subjects as an entry into the minds of children and to the schools. Otherwise, we won't get an entry if I say that I will boost your creativity through, say, Carnatic music or something. Most people very politely say, oh, that's nice to hear, and then they'll throw you out. But we are part of the curriculum, which is science, mathematics and so on. You get entry, and you're also aligned to what the children do. So it's a medium or a means to an end. The end being keep getting the children to be curious, which they often are missing out in the way our education system is, and the special problems that rural schools have, which is lack of hard infrastructure, soft infrastructure like teachers, commitment, quality, availability, training, focus, all of that is a bit of a problem. There are outstanding schools there as well, but few and far in between. And therefore, to get those children to move away from pure chalk and talk or rote memory or not even learning, just going to the next class without learning anything, and some of the things that I'm sure Ashok will give you, some of the SS scores and so on that have been going around. So, does a 9th standard child, can it read or write? Sometimes it's a question. So, those kind of issues happen, and that's what we want to tackle by getting children to be curious, creative, and if you are confident, you learn even better. How do we do this? We do it through a very extensive distribution network of outreach other than the campus, using mobile labs mostly. We have about 175 at last count, but we keep adding every week. We have about 70 science centers. We have other innovative formats which have come along in the last 7-8 years, because one of the things that I do is strategy, vision, products and services innovation, program innovation and all of that. So we have done things like lab in a box, lab on a bike, tech club bike, iMobile lab, various formats which can lend itself. And currently we are engaged in something called lab on a tab and so on. So in the digital age and so on. So all of that we do, but hands-on learning and making sure the child is engaged, interactive is the most important focus. We try to bring what is known as the experience of that class should have 3 elements, which is aha and ha-ha, which is initially the child is taken aback at something that's happening, an experiment or a model or something that's not very intuitive, counterintuitive perhaps or so on, or the child doesn't know. And then from there to aha, which is, oh, this is the reason why it's happening and so on, and the principles behind it. And ha-ha is having fun doing all this. This is a very, very important element of our class. We have global processes brought into some of these. We run like a corporate, some of us have come from the corporate sector. So we have whatever, we are not as big as say Akshay Patra or Sridhar Venkat runs. They are massive. But we try and do things which are high quality processes, whether it's a HR process, recruitment, onboarding, training, motivation, retaining people in the HR area, or accounting processes or finance, funding, etc., or project management to build facilities or run, or logistics, which is vehicles and transportation, materials, supply chain management. Every single corporate process we have, except the profit element, everything else is there. We are still a charity. We don't do things for money at all. Everything that we do is free for the children and the teachers that we train. which we do in very large numbers, by the way, because we are convinced that one Agastya cannot change the landscape, it's humongous. So get the teachers to participate, and one enlightened or transformed teacher can transform 100 lives every year. That's the kind of philosophy that we have, and so the force multiplier effect is in play. That's what we try and do. Staff of over 1,000 people. As most of you know, most important elements of strategy is knowing what not to do rather than knowing what to do. So we are often led astray, and we have to come back and we say, no, we can't do this. We are not a science class. We won't run a 45-minute physics period. Those kind of things we keep doing so that we know what we are doing and we do exactly what we want to do. And that is, the steadfastness of vision. Having the managerial people and the troops to do it is the second, and raising the finance is the third. So if you ask me, how do we sustain? My major equation in sustainability is first, vision, mission not being compromised. I can replicate, I can give you IP, but I won't compromise. Second thing is people, managerial and others. Third is funding, and funding has never been a problem from that point of view. Once you are steadfast on these, the funding follows, opportunities follow. So sustainability is not, for a non-profit, is not just about funding. Funding to us is third. So that's the way we go about things. In terms of challenges facing the sector, and I'm going to close with these three statements. I think at a very, very macro level, there is a credibility problem for the social sector. NGOs, non-profits, whatever they are, have spoiled the name of people who do well, and that creates quite a bit of problems for you when you go to meet